Options involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. Options investors may lose the entire amount of their investment in a relatively short period of time.
Hello, today we're going to talk about option trading. Specifically, we're going to talk about the basics of protective put buying. Before we get too far along though, we want to define what an option is just in general. An option in general is a contract, and it gives the owner the right to buy or sell an asset at a fixed price for a specific period of time. It then obligates the seller of the contract to take the opposite side if and when the right embedded in the option contract is exercised by the owner. Bottom line is, the buyers of contracts, they pay cash, and for that cash they get a right. The seller of the contract receives the cash, and for receiving that cash, they take on an obligation. Specifically here, we're going to talk about buying put options around a stock that we already own. By buying that put option, we're going to pay cash, we're going to take on a right, and that right will be to put stock to somebody at a specific price for a specific period of time. So if we look at our graphic here, this means that we are going to be the buyer, or we're going to be long the option contract, and this will give us the right to sell or put stock to somebody at the price which is referred to as the strike price. Okay, so let's get an actual example here. And what we're looking at is a protective put. That's the most commonly used phrase, but it's sometimes called a married put. And it's usually called a married put when you buy the stock and buy the put at the same time. And that's what we're looking at doing in our example here. We have a fictitious stock, XYZ. We're going to buy 100 shares. The stock is trading at $65 a share. If we buy 100 shares just outright, that would be $6,500 plus commission to buy that underlying stock. Well, at the same time, we're going to buy one XYZ 46-day 62.50 strike put. Okay, so 2.5 points below, we're going to buy a put that allows us to put stock to somebody or sell our 100 shares at 62.50. Now that doesn't come free, that ability, because you're fixating a sell point. You're saying if the market gets down to here, I want to sell. So I'm going to have to pay for that. That cost me $1.50 for those 46 days to have that right. So our total cost here now is a net debit of 65 plus 150 or 66.50. We've increased the cost of the total position to have the peace of mind of knowing what price we can sell the stock at. So 46 days to expiration. Let's fast forward to expiration and see what can happen here. And let's talk a little bit about how this put actually kind of acts as an insurance contract and the similarities between the options world and the insurance world. The risk. The stock at 65, the strike is at 62.50. That means that we have a deductible, if you will, of $2.50, or on 100 shares, $250. So with the options world, if you want the zero deductible insurance, in other words, we pay for the 65 strike put, it's going to be more costly. If I'm willing to take on that first 2.5 points of risk, my price goes down, the premium I pay for that put goes down, but I have 2.5 points of risk. And that's what we see here. So I like to refer that to that as the deductible when I'm thinking of protective put buying. Now, the total risk is what really matters to me. If I'm driving a car and I crash it into a tree, they don't say, oh, you were right, you are a horrible driver. Here's a new car and your premium back that you paid for your insurance contract. No, that doesn't happen. And in the options world, that's also true. The cost of doing business you never get back when you buy a protected put in this scenario. So your total risk is going to be that deductible, $2.50, plus the premium paid for the option contract, or a total of $4 here in our scenario. So that $4 equates, when you equate it to the stock price, where it is at, you have a total of 6% downside risk. So let's think about this. I put this position on. I know the most that I can lose on it is 6%. But what's my upside? Well, if the stock continues on up, I own the stock. I didn't sell it. The put gave me peace of mind. I'm in the position. It goes to 60, 70, 80. The whole way up, I still participate in that stock price gain because I still own the stock. Now, if the stock at XYZ stock here is somewhere between 62.50 and 65, well, that's where I'm going to own the stock at. The put didn't really help me out. It would expire worthless. Stock went down. I got a small loss on the stock, but I'm still in that stock position, and then I have to choose what I want to do next after the expiration of the option contract. So let's look at this on a profit and loss graph, and let's compare it to just owning stock outright. If I just bought stock outright, which is the blue line here on our graph, on the x-axis we see where our cost basis is. We paid 65 for it. That's where our cost basis is. On the way down, we're going to lose money. On the way up, we're going to make money. We buy the protected put. Well, our cost basis increases by the amount of the put. So we see here on the red line, we're crossing the x-axis at 66.50, which is the cost of the stock plus the $1.50 for the put. But notice, once we go down, we got that little hockey stick figure going on. From 62.5 down, which happens to be the strike price, we have limited and known risks all the way down to zero. We could, if the stock goes down to 30, we can take it at 30 and we can put it to somebody at 62.50 as long as the option contract hasn't expired. Now, overall, if I look at this, I still have the full upside of the strategy in that I still own the stock. So if you look on the upside on the red line, we still have unlimited upside potential in theory because we own the stock. We never sold it. All right, so things to think about when you're buying protective put options. How do I enter this trade? Can it be done as one trade? And we mentioned that. We said that if you enter it as one trade, this is considered a married put. But the bottom line is most brokerage firms do have a specific trade to enter a protective put where you buy the stock and buy the put all as one trade for a net debit. Second bullet. Can I buy the stock first and then buy the put later? And the answer is definitely yes. And this is the most common way for people to do this because when you buy the stock, you're usually pretty bullish on the stock. You kind of think the stock's going to go up. Why do you need protection right now? Obviously, I wouldn't buy it if I thought it was going to go down, right? So most people will buy the stock and either they're making money and they're a little worried that it's going up too fast and they need some protection on the downside, or they're losing money and now they're scared and now they'd like the chance for the stock to bounce back up, but I want some protection just in case it continues to go down. So by far the most common thing for people to do is to buy the stock first, see what happens with it, and then buy a protective put later depending on where they're at with the stock. All right, so in the next bullet, what expiration for the put? What expiration is good? Well, if you're thinking about a put as an insurance, giving you some protection for your stock, it's going to cost you a lot more to protect your stock than it is to protect your house or your car. Stocks move a lot more, so put insurance is expensive. So the question that kind of goes along with this bullet point is, well, if I do a protected put, what is my outlook on the marketplace? Does this mean I'm bearish? Do I want the stock to go down, or am I still bullish? Well, the best answer is to say that you're bullish but nervous. So if you truly were bearish on the stock, what should you do? Just sell the stock. Why waste money on the protected put? So in this scenario, if I'm looking at what expiration to buy, I want to buy shorter term expiration. As a matter of fact, we went out in our example, we looked at 46 days out. I'd say that's the maximum. If you really think you need a 6-month put option or a 7-month put option, you really should probably are really bearish on the stock and you should probably just sell it and get out of that position. Okay, next thing. You are in control because you are the buyer. You may choose to exercise or just sell the put. So keep this in mind. You're in control of this position. When you pay cash for something, you control it. If the market goes down, the value of the put should increase. So you might not have to exercise. If you think it's gone down enough and you think the stock's going to bounce back, just sell the put. You're going to make money on the put. Then you stay long the stock, and that put gave you the protection to stay in just in case you got that downturn. So it's very possible to just close the put option and stay long the stock. Okay, the last two bullets are in regards to the pricing of put options or protected puts. The more volatile the underlying is, the more expensive it will be to insure. So if I have a stock that from open to close, day in and day out, has wild price swings, well, that's going to cost you more to insure that stock than a more docile stock. The other thing is the actual cost of the underlying. If you think about it, if I'm buying protection on a $100 stock, that stock in theory could go from 100 all the way down to 0. That protection is going to cost you more than if you're buying it on a $10 stock that could only go from 10 all the way down to 0. Well, that's it for today. I look forward to your questions and comments. In the meantime, may all the options you bought finish in the money and all the ones you sold finish out.